All right, let's uncover the narrative about what the mainstream's not telling you about what's happening with the Charlie Kirk investigation and situation, and also the tech companies and OpenAI, Meta, Palantir, including the Department of National Intelligence. I'm sorry, the Director of National Intelligence. Let's break this down and show you some real eye-opening things that you may not be aware of. So, June 13th, 2025, just a few months ago, the Army put out Detachment 201. Now, the Army is under the Commander-in-Chief, and its new executive innovation brings top tech talent to Army Reserve to bridge the commercial military technology gap. The 4 tech leaders to join as officers, including Detachment 201, to recruit senior tech executives to serve part-time as Army Reserve as senior advisors. This role will help target projects to help guide rapid scalability in tech solutions to complex problems, to bring private sector known as how to into uniform. Detachment 201 is supercharging efforts like Army Transformation Initiative, which aims to make force smarter, leaner, faster, more lethal. The 4 new Army Reserve Lieutenant Colonels are the Chief Officer for Palantir, Chief Technology Officer for Palantir, the Chief Technology Officer for Meta, the Chief Product Officer for OpenAI, the Advisor at Think Machines, and former Chief Research Officer at OpenAI. So 4 major tech institutions that are now have active military officers advising and running inside their organization. When you're an active duty military, there is congressional law that says you cannot serve in the cabinet. Like, you cannot be active in the DOD and then also be on the cabinet, unless you're the Department of Defense. So why hasn't anyone been in outrage in the mainstream or the Democrats about Tulsi Gabbard being active duty military? Why? Why not? I mean, if it's not allowed because of Congress, there should be legal actions. There should be congressional hearings. There should be outrage. There should be a finding of these things. And I welcome those things, and I hope they happen. Because as the narrative that, is out there, the mainstream narrative, they should tell you that it's not allowed. But what happened is back in the 1950s, Dwight D. Eisenhower was a 5-star general. And when he became president for the first time, a 5-star general in the White House. And what he did was he expanded the powers of the president. These powers of the president allowed the president to expand his powers through the military in times of war and absolute desperate measures when the country is on life support and we're at critical times, which we've been under attack for so long. Our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, and working the legal as a non-lawyer myself, seeing how our rights are constantly under attack. We were on life support, and it takes really holding people to the fire to enforce these things. So we have been under great threat for a long time. So now, with the expansion of the military powers under Eisenhower, new executive orders can be invoked, and they were starting in 2016 and even 2015 under Obama. And these executive orders began to expand the presidential power through military operations. And you could watch, you could probably find this information passed on that book on Amazon, and I have all the PDFs, all the executive orders. It's actually a free version. I don't know how to find the site, but it's it's Derek Johnson's got a great book, Midnight Rider, and he breaks down all the executive orders. There's a way to get it for free off of him on this website if you want to really break it down and see all the facts and all the laws and how it works and intertwines. But what you'll find is that Charlie Kirk, his dad was actually a architect for the Trump Tower, one of the architects, chief architects. Wasn't just a random guy working in building blocks. No, he was a chief architect, meaning that he was working with Donald Trump during the construction of Trump Tower. This would have been in the early 80s. So this relationship, goes back a long time with that family. And when you start to uncover a little bit more about how we're definitely under this special military operation, as I've shown you here with Detachment 201, okay? These military officers are now inside of those 4 tech companies. We know that. With the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is an active duty military right now, running our Department of National Intelligence. That's over the CIA. The CIA director, Ratcliffe, reports to her. And then she reports to the president. So she, a military officer, active, not former, active, which is not allowed, is now in charge of our entire national intelligence. So we know we have a military operation going on because of these facts I've laid out. So these are not obvious, but once you see them, you can say, whoa, here's a fact. These are 5 different facts that I just pointed out to you that we clearly are under a military operation, a surgical military operation. So now you start to see what's going on with the Charlie Kirk narrative. The Charlie Kirk narrative is allowing that strategic military operation to go out with lethal strike force against any sort of domestic terrorism, like the cartels that have been labeled terrorist. Like Antifa, which is coming next. Antifa will be the next group that's going to be targeted as domestic terrorists and will be removed with surgical precision. If you're part of Antifa, beware, because your day is numbered. And it's not numbered in the way of, due process and long time of coming. We're talking about a special, surgical, targeted military operation to wipe those Antifa out. It's happening. And I say, look forward to July 4th, 2026. July 4th, 2026. It's less than a year away. We're going to be living in a time of joy, a time of peace, a time of rejoicing and brotherhood and celebration for our greatest nation, which I am a upworthy and trustworthy custodian of its good name as an American. I have a duty and an obligation that I have sworn to be a trustworthy custodian of its good name, and that is the United States of America as a Californian. And as a Californian, I have that duty to uphold. So, and being born here and to protect it, especially with the knowledge that I have. But look forward to that great day that we're celebrating this American experiment in 250 years on July 4th, 2026, because that will be the Liberation Day. That's going to be the day where this operation will be over. Making the prediction now. It'll be over. That's how fast it's going to happen. It's already underway, we know, but you're going to see over the next few months Antifa and these other organizations being completely destroyed, taken out. If you are committing acts against our great republic here, and you're an American even, if you're committing acts against American interests, beware. If you're not a lover of freedom, liberty, and a defender of the Constitution, whether you're on the right or left, it doesn't matter. I had a great show with Dimitri today. We talked about these things. And one of these points that I brought up was this lady out in Texas. She was a student at West Texas University, and she's this is going to sound despicable what she did, but she's celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and she's making a rap about it, saying he shot in the head, your homie got shot in the head, and she was celebrating about it, making a joke, dancing and celebrating. And then she got arrested. Well, let me tell you, those types of things, those are not arrestable. And the military will not and shall not get involved in that. And if somebody is mistakenly arrested for that, unless there's facts outside of it that I'm not aware of, there's an actual insight, what's called a real threat of violence, they should not at all be arrested. And if they are arrested, they should not be charged, because exercising your First Amendment, even though it's despicable, even though it's vile, even though it's mean-spirited, awful, to go around and dance about and celebrate that someone's friend, that she called it their homie, died. That's one of the most mean, despicable things ever. It's protected free speech. And we never should ever go against that. Even for mean, despicable bullies and people who say that. They have the right to say what they're going to say. That's protected speech. Sorry. As long as it's not a true and violent threat or it's a real imminent threat that's being made. If it's not being made, then it's free speech. And so that person should be set free. But those who are making these imminent threats and creating real damages and have actually done real damage, beware, because I'm telling you, this special operation is happening right now. Director of National Intelligence is in active duty. You've got Palanteer, you've got Meta, you've got OpenAI, all with active duty military officers inside their operation. You saw Sam Altman going out to the UK now today. And while I have been in absolute opposition and objector to ChatGPT, I've never used the program. I'm sure I've used it because of blending it with Poe and maybe it's OpenAI models. I'm sure I have, but I've never signed up for ChatGPT because I believe that Altman and Mayor Louie in San Francisco have colluded together to, in a murder of Sujit Bilal, because he's a whistleblower and he was blowing the whistle on OpenAI. And when you got billions of dollars, unlimited money coming from a guy like Altman, a lot of things can happen. I mean, there's a lot of people, politicians, and that are in San Francisco that are willing to take. I'm sure they're willing to take bribes. And if they aren't, then there should be a darn investigation. But no, Mayor Louie says it was a suicide. Altman says it was a suicide on the Tucker Carlson podcast recently. So I've been objecting to ChatGPT, and I'm going to continue to object to ChatGPT on moral principles, just for that reason alone. That let's just find out the real story on that. It clearly wasn't a suicide. That's the wrong narrative. We know that it wasn't a suicide. Anyone with half a brain can see that. And Sam Altman think, it was a suicide. Even his narrative of that was breaking down on Tucker Carlson. It was a suicide. It wasn't a suicide. Now, I'm not saying Altman did it, I don't know, but it needs to be investigated. Putting it to bed, saying, we're not investigating it, that is bullshit. That's what's wrong. The murder needs to be investigated immediately, and they got to catch the guy who did it. They got to catch the guy who did it. That's the whole point. Justice. Not investigating at all is suspect. And so let's figure out who it was, and let's get Altman and these people under oath. And I put a challenge out to his mom before in the past, and I'm glad that she took it and fired that attorney that she had. Because that attorney was doing nothing. She fired him. And they got a new one in there. He's also, again, they just hired a new attorney over there on the Sujit Bilal case, and it's about the writ where the city is not giving them the medical investigation records. Show us all the investigation that you guys did, and they haven't done that. So hopefully that does happen. Till then, I'm going to keep objecting to ChatGPT because I think it's what they've done is wrong, OpenAI. And I'm glad to see a military officer inside there. So those people have done, the guy who was behind it, who built ChatGPT, or at least one of the guys was murdered. Like, dude, because he was speaking out against it? That's wrong. So anyways, we are under this. I hope I've shown you a little of some of these facts to show that we are under a special military operation. Just some clear facts. Detachment 201. Okay, this is put out by the Army. And you see now that Tulsi Gabbard, who is in charge of Director of National Intelligence, is overseeing the CIA as active duty military. That's not allowed. That's not allowed by Congress, unless these special operations are invoked with executive orders. And it's hard for lawyers to figure this out. My buddy Ivan Raiklin is a great lawyer, great attorney. And, he's a constitutional lawyer. I haven't had him on before, but I should. He's a freaking man. And, I don't think he can figure this out. Or he just isn't open to it at this point. Because it's a rabbit hole, man. It's completely against regular, everything's been taught in law school and what attorneys know. Law procedure, because this whole other side of the operation is a deep area of law to go down. And, I guess my perspective, being a non-lawyer, is that I'm all about learning about being the best. Want to be the best, the most efficient in all areas, whether it's law, content creation, Bitcoin, all these areas. I want to be the freaking best. I want to master all this stuff, so I'm constantly evolving, and there's no one best way. But the statutory way has been effective, and it works because the courts recognize these things. But at the same time, there's more to the story with Charlie Kirk, is what I'm saying. And I want to shed a light of hope with what's going on. I think we're going to see a sign of great awakening in a new paradigm. July 4th, 2026 is going to be the greatest celebration in our great land of liberty that we've ever had. And so have hope and have faith and stay peaceful, okay? That's the whole thing. Stay peaceful. We don't need to get involved and be upset at these other people who did this. That's the last thing we need to do. Let's let these officials do their job and figure it out. They've got the information. The Department of National Intelligence has a way to get all that information by subpoena. But Cash Patel, they can subpoena those records, all the data tracking records they have inside of there. They can get all that stuff if they truly want it. And so if they don't, and we get some BS narrative that another patsy and all this stuff, then yeah, we should question it. But that patsy, if we do have a patsy coming out, I think that we're going to see at some point that it was done for a reason. And that reason was the Great Awakening. The Great Awakening. Hit the ones, and we'll get this out there. A little bit of a open forum. It's a great day out here. San Francisco, up here in the top, looking out. Nice little pad. We're having a nice little studio. It's this little podcast studio. I want to invite people to do live podcasts here soon in the near future. So hit the ones, leave a comment, tell me what you think. My name's Gavin. I'll see you at the top.